Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Tuesday, and you're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. This is video 2 of 3. That's it, 2 of 3. And we're going to be talking about more failings in the UK and ones that I have absolute personal experience with. So I can talk on this subject and take that into consideration, that I've been there, I've seen it, I've done it, I've got the t-shirt for it, and I've seen it at the absolute worst level it could possibly be, where I actually lost a family member due to this exact situation here. And what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this here. So there has been a review of a hospital. So it says, failures at NHS hospital that left Nottingham triple killer free. Hospital was warned over systematic failings years before patient's random stab and spree. And this is what we've got here. So it says, failures by the NHS Trust responsible for treating Nottingham knife killer Valdo Calocane has been laid bare by the health watchdog. But the Independent can also reveal the hospital was repeatedly warned about poor care and experienced a steep rise in patients' deaths over the last decade. An investigation into mental health services in Nottinghamshire, which is not far from me as well, found that deaths of vulnerable patients in the years leading up to Calocane's release from their care more than doubled from 1,694 in 2014 to 15 to 4,149 in 2021-22. Calocane, a paranoid schizophrenic, stabbed 19-year-old students Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar as they returned from a night out in June last year, before going on to kill 65-year-old Ian Coates. And there's a picture of Valdo there. A damning report into his care, published on Tuesday by the Care Quality Commission, CQC, found the Trust mental health unit minimised or omitted key details of the serious risk he posed to others. The families of his victims and services caring for him in the lead up to the attacks have blood on their hands. In response, the Department of Health has confirmed there will be a public inquiry into the failings in Calocane's care. Calocane persistently refused to take his medication, which, again, this is my experience, and with this exact disease, what he suffered from as well, it was the exact disease that my mum suffered from. So this persistently refusing to take medication is a common side effect of that. I'm not saying that everybody who has it does this, but in my personal experience, this is something you see. You know, paranoid schizophrenia, for instance, makes them paranoid about everything. So there is that balance between them understanding what's trying to help them or what's trying to block out the things that can go bad, and what they consider as things that are being done to harm them. And one of the major factors in this is that they massively believe that doctors and even family members, and when they're being given medication, they're being given it in order to harm, not to help. So it's a difficult one to manage, but it's there. He became increasingly violent when his psychosis was not managed properly. And again, this is something that we see. Sadly, what led me to moving out of home at a young age was that, sadly, my mum attacked me. And then had no recollection of it afterwards. He underwent 8 separate risk assessments by the Trust, but was still released into the community. And this is something that, again, we saw. You know, my mum had a horrendous accident that left her with a traumatic brain injury, pairing that with paranoid schizophrenia. But the NHS simply wanted her out of there. They didn't want her there. So it was about them trying to push to get her to come back home, where me and my younger brother was. Now, bearing in mind at the time, you know, I would have been around 15, 16 years old, probably 15 years older. My brother is 6 years my junior. So, and putting a ticking time bomb into that situation, they were very aware of it, but it didn't matter. And I'm now 44 years old. This just sounds like nothing's changed. There has been no advancements in things here. This is exactly how it was back then. And I'll tell you now, it will be exactly like this in 20 years' time. The reality is they don't know how to handle it. They don't want to handle it. They don't give a fuck. And that's the harsh reality of the NHS and the mental health service in general. They don't know how to deal with things, and they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to. He underwent 8 separate risk assessments by the trust, but was still released into the community. Calocane's discharge back to his GP was authorised despite evidence he was a risk to others. And again, they simply don't care. They simply don't care. My mum lost her life after reaching out to the GP and telling them specifically that she was looking to take her own life. And the doctor said that he would do a referral, and he didn't even put the proper information on there. And that referral letter took over a month to be processed. And then they would send people to the house, and this was the day before. They then turned around and said, "You need to grow up." I'm paraphrasing, but it was a case of you don't really want to do it. You want attention. You know, if you'd have wanted to have done it, you'd have done it by now, and not 24 hours later. That was it, and that's your NHS system. that is what you're dealing with. So this doesn't surprise me. There's no surprises in this. The CQC findings come as an investigation into the magazine the doctor shared exclusively with the Independent, reveals Nottinghamshire Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust has received dozens of warnings since 2014-15 from coroners highlighting failures following the deaths of its patients. The investigation found that concerns about the trust services, many similar to those in the CQC findings, have been raised repeatedly for several years, and local experts say insufficient action has been taken and lessons are not being learned. And there isn't anything being learned, and there won't be anything learned moving forwards. There genuinely won't be. This is what we consistently see. Things happening and saying lessons will be learned and we will learn from it and we'll do this and that. And they do nothing. And this feeds into the issues that you have where you're seeing these riots happening all over the UK, and not just the UK, but all over the world. You know, they try and push it that this is far-right individuals being involved in these riots. You've now got children involved in these riots, which is something we're going to be talking about in video 3, so keep an eye out for that. But this is just a boiling pot of all of the issues. It is literally things like this as well, where you think this is families like these here. You know, you're talking about families that are devastated through failings of the system that the public pays for. The public are literally paying for these systems, and they fail and devastate families, and nothing ever changes. Nothing gets done. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a flying monkey's shit about anyone because it doesn't affect them. Unless someone's pissing on someone's feet, they don't care if their feet are wet or not. And it's just, I saw this morning, and it was like, well, this is no different than what I experienced. No different than what I experienced. And being part of that when I was younger as well, I saw the people around my mother who was suffering from the same things, and they were going through the same experiences. And sadly, some of them stories ended up in exactly the same way. This is not a one-off. It's not a two-off. It's not a three-off. This is something that is consistently happening again and again and again and again, and has done for decades, and is, you know, indicative of a failing system, a system that cannot cope, it cannot deal with what they've got to deal with, and nothing is being done. It's just recycling the same shit service and hoping, fingers crossed, that it doesn't have a massive knock-on effect where you see an incident like this happen. And and that's what happens. Every so often, this is what happens. And then they will say they will learn from it, and they learn nothing, because realistically, nothing is set in place. Nothing changes. And you've lost these people here, and their families are devastated because the failings of a system that the public are paying for that is broken, bust, and nobody wants to do anything about it. Sad. Real fucking sad. Let me know about your experiences down in the comments. Have you experienced failings in our systems, and what are those failings and how have they impacted you and your family? Is there anything like mine and what we've read here today? Because things need to get better. Things need to get better, and we have to try and ignore the fact that people are trying to say that the problems we have are caused by things that they're not being caused by. And the people at the helm of this ship need to look and understand that there are some fundamental issues in this country that needs to be taken care of, or things are going to get a hell of a lot worse. I'll catch you all in the next one.